It's 2026, baby! Happy New Year! Throughout 2025, I uploaded more than 50 different video games on this channel, and that's without counting the games that I played off camera. And normally I would kickstart the year by doing a top 5 to top 10 video of the games that I played the previous year, and the games that I liked, the games that let me down. But today, this year, we're doing something a little bit different. I am going to do a ranking of every single video game I played from January 1st to December 31st of 2025. And I know for a fact some of these rankings are going to have people coming at me at the comments. You bastards, calm down. If you do enjoy today's video, I would appreciate it immensely if you hit that like button down below. And if you're new around here, consider hitting that subscribe button to join the Kaiju crew. I upload daily gaming content. From Monday to Friday, you will get not one, but 2 modern gameplays, and on weekends, we throw it back to the past with Zirra's Retro Rewind. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's dive into today's video. What is going on, YouTube universe? My name is Zirra, and welcome on in to a different type of video, one that I haven't done before, and one that I'm very interested to see how it's going to be received, because when it comes to rankings and tier lists and imparting personal opinion on something, without fucking any reservation, people are going to come at you in the comment section hard. In the past, I have done things like top 10 games I played this year, top 10 games I didn't play this year, 5 games I liked, 5 games I disliked, but this time around, I'm going to sit back and rank every single game that I did a Let's Play series of back in 2025. I mean, what better way to kickstart a brand new year than reflect on the year that was, right? Within the 53 games you can see pictured on screen, there are 2 exceptions to the rule, and there were actually more exceptions, but I kind of pared it back a little bit. And those exceptions will be 2 games that I played off camera that I want to include on this list just for a little bit of prosperity and a little bit of more, a little bit of more girth, because the 2 games that I have played off camera were very synonymous with releases in 2025, so I thought it was fitting. And don't let that fool you, because I played plenty of games off camera last year, and I originally did have all of them in this tier list, but the 2 that I've included were 2025 releases, and I thought it just made sense to have them here versus the ones that came out years ago that I don't know whether or not have a place on this tier list if we're going through games through 2025. So games like Fallout 4 that I put a lot of time into. I re-downloaded Grand Theft Auto 5 and started playing that again, both the story mode and online mode. And that's undergone some big changes in itself since I played it last. I played a lot of Marvel Rivals. I got back into Fortnite again. I played a lot of Pal World, Disney Dreamlight Valley, games like that I played a lot of, but they're not going to be involved in today's list. And the games that we do have, however, are great. So we're not missing out on anything at all. I think what I am going to do is I will start with the 2 games that I didn't upload in 2025 and get those out of the way. The first of which was Pokemon Legends ZA. I was so hyped for this. If you know me, I'm a huge Pokemon fan. I got to get hands-on experience with this at PAX last year, just ahead of the global release, and the demo that I played gave me a lot of hope because I loved the new real-time combat. I loved the rogue Mega Evolution battles. I loved the fact that Mega Evolution was back, especially given some Pokemon that have needed love desperately in the past got some love this time around. I still feel there were some questionable decisions with some of the design choices, with some of the Pokemon they did do Megas for. I feel the story fell a little bit short just for me, and then some other little tidbits, just like some graphics kind of stuff, really nitpicking when it comes down to it. But it failed, in my eyes anyway, to be the A-tier game that I thought it was going to be. Locking things like Mega Stones behind online ranked battles and things like that doesn't sit right with me, because I'm not really an online ranked battle kind of player. But again, should I take away points from a personal standpoint in that regard? I don't know. Where this game lands, it lands for me between the B tier and the C tier. I think what saves it is the combat. I loved still the free form kind of Pokemon capturing in the wild. I loved I think that saves it enough for me right now to throw it in the middle of the table and put it in the B tier. I've heard rumors that Generation 10 is going to go back to turn-based, so I think that's going to undo what Pokemon ZA has done here, because I think Pokemon ZA, what they've done is they've kind of used this as a transitional point in the franchise to kind of give you a little bit of a taste and indicator as to where the game is going to go moving forward. I hope that's the case, and I hope they build upon that, but for now, this is just a mid-game for me. Anyway, I don't know. I'm going to get cooked. I can fucking feel it. The second game is Clair Obscure Expedition 33, the game that cleaned up the Game Awards. It is officially the most winning game in Game Awards history, and, funnily enough, is going to be the first Let's Play series that I drop in 2026. So I've been cooking behind the scenes. I have been recording this. I just don't know. At this point in time, I don't know whether I've played enough to throw it into S tier. I feel it's going to be an S tier. For me right now, it's in the A tier from what I've experienced, but I think just off of where I'm at currently, where I think this game is going to go, what it has already delivered, this is definitely going to be the S tier game that swept the awards. And I know there's been a lot of controversy come out since then with use of placeholding AI during development and people taking that out of context a little bit and absolutely blowing up social media about it. I just think the soundtrack of this game is absolutely incredible. Visually, it is stunning. Gameplay-wise, I don't know where I sit with the whole parry and dodge system being integral to combat. I love that it's a bit of a shake-up, but I'm fucking terrible at it, but I don't think I should take points off because I'm a terrible fucking gamer. So, with everything that it has delivered so far, with the promise of what I think it's going to deliver as I continue playing, definitely deserving of S tier at this point in time. And now we can turn attention to the games that we did play. 51 titles if I've gotten every single title correct, and we're just going to run from top to bottom through every single game. This includes all the retro games we played for Zirra's Retro Rewind, plus all the modern gameplays we played from our Monday to Friday time slots. Kicking it off with the PlayStation 2 title Def Jam Fight for New York. To me, this is definitely S tier. I was going to drop it in A, but I think I was going to be doing myself a disservice in doing so. The Def Jam series on the PlayStation 2 is absolutely phenomenal. It is one of my favorite fighting franchises, especially from the arcade kind of style. You know, when you think of games like arcade fighters, you think of Street Fighter, you think of Tekken, you think of Mortal Kombat, but I think Def Jam definitely slots into that mold incredibly well. Co-op wise, this goes off the chain. I remember playing it as a kid with my childhood best friend, and we would just go absolutely ham. Fight for New York is one of those moments where the sequel surpasses the original exponentially. The cast in this game is sensational. The soundtrack absolutely bops, and you saw the story play out if you followed that series. So I think comfortably this is an S tier game. It could have arguments for an A tier if you want to argue that, but again, this is personal opinion. I'm going to get cooked. You're going to drag me, I know, but we're throwing it up in S. Terrifier, the arcade game, I had a lot of fun with. I just feel there were limitations with this game that I think holds it back a little bit. There were Easter eggs throughout that I loved for other horror games and horror IPs. The fact of, you know, the brutality that this offered, especially in a pixelated standpoint, was absolutely brutal, but it didn't offer enough differentiation from level to level. It was the same thing over and over again, and I get it. These side-scrolling beat-em-up games in the past never really offered anything different. It was always the same. You would scroll from right to left, left to right, and you would just throw punches and just move on to the next level. I just feel there could have been room for a little bit more growth. I don't know whether playing multiplayer in this aspect would make the game better, and as much as it pains me, I am going to drop this in the C tier. That doesn't mean I didn't enjoy it, because I did, but I just think the game could be a lot better, and I think that's where some of these games are going to land, and some decisions I make might be upsetting in that regard, but again, as I said, personal standpoint, that's where I'm coming from. I'm trying to come from a standpoint of not just how I felt playing the game, but how I feel mechanically it could be better. And, you know, trying to put personal opinion and the actual build of the game together to make a cohesive decision. Does that make sense? I fucking hope so. Disney's Hercules on the PlayStation 1. This was a game that I've been waiting to play on Retro Rewind since Retro Rewind became a thing. Actually, in 2025, a lot of the retro games I played were the reason why I wanted to bring in that retro slot on the weekends. So I was very happy that we ticked off a lot of those retro titles off the list. For me, Disney's Hercules is one of those ones that I loved as a kid. I'm going to drop it middle of the table though, because I feel it strayed a little bit from the film. They could have done more from the film. They just added some things that I think were a little bit filler. They could have added some more boss fights, I feel, that could have maybe lent to the experience a little bit more. Some of the boss fights they did go with felt a little bit convoluted. But again, an absolutely great game. As far as the Disney games go back in that era, Hercules is definitely one of my favorite. Speaking of Disney, we move on to Pixar's A Bug's Life. And again, this was one that I put a lot of time into as a kid. I absolutely loved the film. But upon playing it again, I've noticed that it might not have been the game that I thought it was as a kid. Looking at it through a different lens now makes me drop it down from a B tier to a C tier game. And again, that's just because there are things in this game that they could have done better. They could have added some more things in instead of fluffing it up with things that felt a little bit unnecessary. But I love the fact that you follow Flick's story from start to finish a little bit more cohesively than you do with Hercules, given the fact that Hercules starts as him training as a hero. I would have loved Hercules to have gone back a little bit further, maybe as a teenager, discovering his powers, things of that nature. But I think collectively, when you put the two head to head, I like Hercules more than I like A Bug's Life, so I'm happy to put these two where they have landed. But Crowned was one of the first demos we played last year, and we played a lot of demos, especially in the realm of the indie horror genre. I think we ate very well last year for the horror genre on this channel. But Crowned was easily the best demo that I played all year last year, without a shadow of a doubt. So much so that I'm whacking it straight into A tier. This was the game that I touted as the Silent Hill successor. You know, the Silent Hill heir apparent that we all needed. The graphics just take you back to that bygone PS1 era. The tension and atmosphere in this game were absolutely palpable. The enemies were fucking terrifying, and it just made me feel that we were transported back to a bygone era of gaming playing this game. I know there is a new demo out for this. I'm very keen to check it out, and then on full release, I'm definitely diving in and playing this from start to finish. I am so hyped for this game. The dev of this has done so much work to bring back an essence that I feel has been lost when it comes to gaming, and I love when games in this day and age lean into nostalgic visuals and aesthetic and feels and just help you recapture those childhood nuances just a little bit more. So But Crowned, if you haven't checked it out yet, definitely recommend you go and do so. Ayla, another indie horror game that we played, one that again I am dropping into the A tier. I absolutely loved it. Now reviews are coming in saying that this was a failed game that failed to live up to the hype of AI and everything else, but I feel the experiences within the game that you were given, the premise of building upon every experience and making it exponentially harder and tilting it more to the player, and the story that we followed, even though I was able to kind of piece the pieces together myself a little bit by the end, I really enjoyed this game. There were genuine scares, the atmosphere was brilliant, the gameplay was solid, and when it comes to horror games, if you've been on my channel before, you would know that atmosphere is something that I hold in such high regard. So if a video game comes across and the atmosphere in that game is absolutely top tier, I'm always going to regard that game a little bit higher than others, and Ayla definitely delivered on that, at least for me anyway. Tormentor, the final game we played in 2025, the final Let's Play series that we did. It was only a mini-series, but the promise that this game holds, especially because it's still in development, is absolutely incredible. We played the story mode, and that was only 3 episodes long. Again, if you've missed any of these gameplays and series that I'm putting up here, feel free to go check them out, because every single series we dropped last year is an absolute banger. I definitely feel, and this might shock some people, I just feel, I'm putting Tormentor in S tier. I absolutely loved it, and I just think the sandbox mode, which I've had a little bit of a play around with, and fuck, you can have some fun with that. The manhunt, just everything about this delivered something I feel indie horror was screaming for. It gave us nuance from films, from past video games, and just the brutal nature that it delivered was absolutely fucking brilliant. Okay, so I thought I only had 2 games that I didn't play on camera on this list, but it turns out I had 2 more because I'm a fucking idiot and I can't use my eyes properly. Spider-Man Miles Morales and The Forest. 2 games that clearly didn't come out in 2025, but I did put a lot of time into, and I think I left them on this list for that reason, and because they were definitive in 2 different ways for me. Miles Morales, obviously, I have played Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2 on the channel, so I went back to play Miles Morales in my own time just to fill that gap. And The Forest, off camera, was probably the multiplayer game that I played the most with friends, and probably defined that multiplayer kind of experience for me away from the stuff I was doing on YouTube. As far as these games go, these are both A tier for me. Miles Morales, I just feel didn't do enough to be on the same level as Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2. However, I loved that it lent into the African-American culture. We got to see Spider-Man from a different perspective. We got to see some different, boss fights. We still got to have Peter Parker in many instances around, with the web training and, him referencing Peter throughout and feeling like he can't live up to expectation. I just feel, with expectation-wise, the gap between that was left from this and then jumping to Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2 was a little bit too far for me to be able to put this into the S tier. The Forest lands in A tier as well. As far as multiplayer games go, this is one of the best I've ever played. I love games that have base building options. I love horror games. I love games that provide opportunity for banter. The Forest delivered that in spades. We got together, me and some friends that you've seen on the channel before, Ekans and Mick 10, and we were base building. We were running around screaming our fucking asses off, getting chased by monsters. We were going fucking spelunking and cave diving. I'm keen to finish this game because we haven't finished the story mode yet. Then check out Sons of the Forest and then get ready for Forest 3, which was announced at the Game Awards this year. I just love what this provided for us. It was a breath of fresh air, I feel, from the other games that we had played before. And again, a game that provides like base building and horror and kind of slaps them together. Sign me the fuck up. Now we can go back to the games that I did upload, and we're going back to some demos. We've got Fear the Time Loop. This one was interesting. I actually love the concept of when you die, you go back to the start of a loop again, and you can take the information that you have gained previously and move forward. There was opportunity to take things that you had learnt and then go a different route. Like we opened up one door and then we died, reverted, then we can open up the other door, knowing, things like that. I just feel the demo itself was too short. I'm going to throw Fear the Time Loop in the C tier for now, but I've got high hopes for it. It is one that I'm actively watching, and if they can build upon what they have produced in the demo, I definitely feel we are going to be given a horror experience that can be rather definitive in the indie horror space. I just feel for now, just didn't deliver enough for me. Just. Final Fall. We played this from start to finish. It was around the time where I started thinking with games that were like 2 to 3 hours long, we could sit down and just drop it in one video. And Final Fall was a horror game that lent into mental health and depression, anxiety, those type of feelings, suicide. It took those and created a very tasteful horror experience. Some games just take shit like mental health and things of that nature and they just don't deliver it well enough. This game definitely delivered it and gave us a game that actually gave us options to have different endings in the end as well, which I thought was a great and welcomed addition. I loved it. I'm going to put it middle of the table. It wasn't a game that I feel was groundbreaking enough to be an A, but it definitely wasn't bad enough to be in the lower tiers. I definitely feel this gave us... You know what? While I'm at it, I'm actually going to move Fear the Time Loop up to B tier, because I feel both Final Fall and Fear the Time Loop were games that set up great promise, great foundation. Final Fall obviously is a full game already, but Fear the Time Loop, now that I think about it, offered probably the same amount, if not a little bit more, than what Final Fall did, and Fear the Time Loop was only a demo. So we'll move that one up. We're doing this live. I don't give a shit. Slender Reborn. I'm dropping it in the C. Oh yeah, I'm dropping it in the C tier. The scares were solid. The scares were great, but still, I feel they could have done so much more with this game than just being a point A to point B run around 5 pages. I know that is what Slender has always been, but I just hate that, all the pages are in the same place. I died a few times, but I was able to go to the same location and find those pages again. If they had it in a way that it was procedurally generated so the pages would move, whether the scares would differ just a little bit, whether there was just something that added something a little bit more to the mix, a little bit of flavor, would have taken this to the next level. But I feel, as much as I was scared the fuck out of a few times playing this game, it just fell a little bit flat ultimately when I look back at it in reflection. Digimon Story Time Stranger. This is getting jumped straight up to S tier, and it is getting put in second place on my list. This game was absolutely robbed for a nomination for RPG Game of the Year last year at the Game Awards. As far as monster capturing, monster taming games go, this is the best one I've ever played. This game, in my personal opinion, puts Pokemon Company on notice. And I know Pokemon Company don't give a shit. They're making enough money from the TCG, from the toys, from the fucking films, from the animes, that they don't even give a fuck about doing anything intuitive with the gaming franchise. We got some, real-time combat within Pokemon Legends ZA, but still, graphically, story-wise, we're not pushing the envelope. Digimon Story Time Stranger comes out with voice acting, gives us a flushed-out story, gives us a pool of Digivolutions that is so incredibly wide that you can, customize your team the way you see fit. This was brilliant. It delivered emotion. The story was great. Visually, I love the aesthetic of Digimon. The gameplay, I was never bored, especially for a game that is turn-based. It just proves that deep down, I do have a love for that turn-based kind of stuff. And I mean, it does make sense. Some of my favorite games include Final Fantasy, 10. I'm a Pokemon gamer since the OG Red and Blue, so turn-based gameplay and combat is something that I've grown up with, but it's not something that I have prominently featured on this channel before. And I was a little bit scared that Digimon being a turn-based game, especially for the combat, would halter the experience a little bit, but I feel it was one of my most enjoyed experiences of 2025 as a whole. If you're a Digimon fan, get onto this game. Don't waste your fucking time. Everybody that I know that has played it absolutely loves it, and it is S tier. I don't care what anybody says. We then have One Way Home. I think it was One Way Home. This game was great. Another demo again that provided at least the promise of different endings. It all ended with the same ending, but it did have branching pathways. So the demo itself gives you enough in the way of setting up possibilities that I know when this game drops, it is going to be absolutely elite. I'm actually going to drop this game in A tier. This, just for me, when it comes to video games, the basis of choose your own adventure, branching pathways, it's one of, if not my favorite gaming mechanics. I've spoken about it many times here on this channel before, and this game, straight off the rip in the demo, gives you multiple paths you can physically walk down to start your experience. And while all the experiences culminate in the same ending, I think that's what's stopping it from me putting it a little bit higher up, because this could be an S tier slot for me. I just feel the setup, the promise, everything that this game has delivered in the demo has me incredibly hyped to dive back in. Whereas Fear the Time Loop, it's one of those games where I would have to see that physical jump. They would need to show me that improvement. Whereas the foundations have been laid for One Way Home. We know what's going to happen moving forward. We're just waiting for that release to go down. Again, one of the best demos I played all year. Becrowned and One Way Home were absolutely brilliant. That's not discrediting any of the other demos that I have played, and not discrediting any of the other games in general that I have played. But if you're a horror fan, definitely one to go check out. It was one that I just happened across looking through Steam, you know, the demo catalog. Sometimes, ladies and gentlemen, just flipping through that, you can actually find yourself some fucking gems. So do yourselves a favor if you're a PC gamer. Chronos New Dawn. Brilliant game. Absolutely loved this. I am S-tiering this bad boy and then some. I am happy to whack that actually in my third slot. A lot of people knocked this game. Again, a lot of Silent Hill nuance through this, especially with the enemy designs. The atmosphere again, though, was absolutely incredible. It was tense. Going through dark, dank hallways, not knowing what is just around the corner, but being scared enough purely just based on the lighting and sound design was absolutely incredible. The fact that we could interact with people in this game on different levels as well added a little bit of depth. The story was solid. The actual combat itself was great. Being able to manipulate the world around you with gameplay mechanics was awesome. And it just felt like an old school survival horror game in a new school aesthetic. And that is always going to sit well with me. The Mortuary Assistant. Fuck, did this game scare the fuck out of me. I'm putting this high up in A tier. And I think what is just stopping it from going to S tier for me is, as much as the scares are great, you were doing the same thing over and over again. You were going to be looking at 3 bodies if you don't identify who the demon is earlier. You got a chance of spending too much time and you're going to die. I feel ripped off a few times. There was a one point in that fucking series where I pushed the body into the fucking furnace and it was burning. You could hear it screaming. I was just about to win. And then my fucking character succumbed to possession and I lost when I had victory in the palm of my hands. It pissed me the fuck off. But as far as jump scares go, some of the best jump scares, even just the minute little ones where they're just a little quick flash, that got me hard in 2025. And I'm not talking about getting me hard, I'm talking about getting me, you fucking perverts. It's one that I'm interested to return to in the future, especially finding out from a good friend of mine that the Mortuary Assistant film that they are currently producing, there's going to be an update for this game apparently that is going to make the film's ending and how the film plays out canon to the game, which means we're going to get a new ending added to the Mortuary Assistant, and I've still got another 3 endings to still go and get, so there's replayability. It's just, for some, it could feel a little bit monotonous having to do the same thing over and over again, and for me, that's where it kind of felt after the 5th or 6th time that I jumped into this game. But adding fresh things like the Halloween update, I didn't do it for Christmas, but there was a Christmas update, and just little fun things like being able to you know, cut open a Santa Claus and dive into a vampire. In the past, it's been a clown on Halloween. So they're actively updating this game, which I absolutely love. It is a game that I will go back and play again, but I don't think it is one that I would go to again and again and again unless they started mixing up the gameplay a little bit, added some more things you could do to the bodies in the mortuary and things of that nature. But I absolutely loved it. That doesn't discredit my love for this game at all. Chicken Run on the PS1. This, again, to me, is going to drop into the B tier. I'm actually going to throw it high B tier. This was another game of my childhood that I put a lot of time into. I love the Chicken Run film. I love claymation as a whole. And the fact that this was essentially, as I earmarked it, Metal Gear Solid for children, a stealth-based game for kids within a, you know, claymated universe, absolutely fantastic. It followed the film close enough to a T. The mini games were absolute fun, and it was just, and that's all it was. It was fun. It was fun to play. It wasn't as frustrating for me as an adult as it was as a child, because I'd get busted by Mr. Tweety. I'd get busted by the dogs all the time and then lose all my fucking inventory. So at least now, as an adult, I'm more fucking capable of playing it. But I absolutely loved it. And it was, again, around that time where we started doing the Retro Rewind on a different format, how we'd do a little bit of a retrospective at the start of the game, and we'd start doing these games from start to finish in one sitting, and really opened me up to mixing my content up a bit as well, which is why I hold this game in such regard for the year. Quarantine Zone. Loved this. Absolutely loved this. Again, it was a demo, so we only got a taste for it. I am going to put it at the top of the B tier for me. I think just what I experienced wasn't enough, and I know there is a lot more to this game. I've seen some footage of, you know, zombie breakouts happening within the actual containment zone, and you actually having to kill those zombies yourself, and, you know, just really being able to step things up and take it to a whole new level. I just didn't get that with the demo, because obviously the demo is only going to give you a certain amount, so I can only judge it upon what we played. But I loved Quarantine Zone. I really did. It's again a game that holds a lot of promise for myself, a lot of promise that I think takes it to an A tier game, can take it to an S tier game. But for me, I'm happy to put it at the top of the middle of the table. 7 Days Blood Moons. My first D-list game. That's not because I didn't enjoy it, because I did. I played one game and loved my time in that, and if you saw that video, you saw the hype I had about finding a fellow content creator in that party and diving in, and the visual aesthetic looking like Borderlands comic book style with the cell shading, and the concept behind players taking on another player who's controlling the zombies is fantastic. What D tiers this for me is the fact that nobody's fucking playing it, so you can never find a game. And that just absolutely breaks my heart, because this game here holds a lot of promise. It is one of those games that I think if you have 4 other friends sitting around and you all get this game, you can jump in and have an absolute fucking ball with, because 4 of you can play as the survivors, 1 of you jumps in as the zombie master, and you can mix and change, kind of like how myself and the squad handled Dead by Daylight when that first came to console. We were all jumping into games together, each taking it in turns to play as a killer and just running around. The banter was great. The fact that I'm sitting there in lobbies trying to find games, I maybe jump into a lobby where there's 1 player and you just sit there forever and nobody joins, kills the fucking hype, which is such a shame, because again, it holds so much promise. The base of the game is there. So much customizability as well for both the survivor and the zombie. This game is fleshed out. No bastards playing it though. Claude, the dinosaur horror demo. Again, for me, this is going in the A tier. This is probably, as far as demos go, it is up there with Becrowned as the demo that I'm awaiting the most to be a full release. It was everything Dino Crisis delivered and more. It itches that, you know, scratches that itch that Dino Crisis left, that us Dino Crisis fans have been wanting. A horror game steeped in dark fucking lighting and atmosphere and sound design, with dinosaurs just on the rampage ready to fucking tear you apart. My only gripe, and probably the one thing that's stopping this from being an S tier demo for me, was there wasn't enough dinosaurs in there that were posing a threat. Apart from a handful of raptors that you killed, there was a Mosasaurus, but the Mosa never really posed a threat because it was in a different section. You could see the Mosasaurus, you could hear the Mosasaurus, but it was never going to get you. You know, drowning was more of a threat than the Mosasaurus was. The T-Rex is in the game, but we never really saw the T-Rex. I think there's Spinosauruses in the game as well, but we never saw that. I know a demo is never going to go full tilt and give you everything, but what has me hyped the most is what we didn't see. That's basically what's bringing me back in. The fact that we finished the demo and then it showed us, we've got Spinosaurs, there's Brachiosauruses, there are T-Rexes in this game. That is what wants me coming back, and that is what has me eagerly awaiting this game's release. So much so, I'm actually going to put it just behind Becrowned on my list. Pestilence. was another horror demo that scared the living shit out of me. We are putting this one in top B tier. Again, it was one of those games that didn't deliver enough to me to have me begging to come back, but I'm very intrigued to follow the development of this game and see where it goes. It delivered probably the biggest jump scare that I had for the year. It absolutely fucking terrified the fuck out of me. But before that point, there was a lot of running around and kind of being confused at what I was doing a little bit. And I don't want a game to hold my hand, don't get me wrong, but when I'm aimlessly walking around for too long, I lose a little bit of momentum when I'm playing a game. So that's probably what's dropped it from an A to a B, but I still highly recommend it if you didn't check it out. Jackass the game on the PS2, the final retro game we played for 2025. I'm throwing Jackass into high B tier. Again, there were some stunts in that game that just didn't make sense to me. I mean, in the realm of Jackass, it would. I think this is more enjoyable as a multiplayer game with your friends. That's just ultimately where it sits. I had fun with it, obviously, and on the Retro Rewind. I'm a huge Jackass fan. The films, the television series. This is a great couch co-op game, and couch co-op, I feel, has been dead for a while. This, again, is a bygone era type of game. I just don't think it's an A-tier game. I think there's enough that kind of killed it for me. There are some stunts that you can be sitting there for upwards of an hour trying to complete, and there's a lot of fucking footage I had to cut out with me just sitting there getting frustrated, I can tell you that. So that's probably what drops it down a little bit. But again, that might be a skill issue. That could be just me being a terrible gamer. But it still, to me, Retro Rewind-wise, was one of the better games that I played. It just wasn't at that elite tier. It wasn't at that god tier. So I've got to put it in the middle of the table. A Nightmare on Elm Street on the Super Nintendo is going to be another C tier game. I'm actually going to put it at the top of the C tier. And this pains me because I'm a huge Nightmare on Elm Street fan. I'm a huge Freddy Krueger fan. I've watched the Nightmare on Elm Street series over and over. Fun fact, there's a guilty pleasure that I have in real time. Whenever I go to bed, I like to have something running in the background, whether it's music, whether it's some ASMR, whether it's a film on the television, just to help me sleep. More often than not, I will just line up every single Nightmare on Elm Street film to play on a loop on my TV. So much so that my kids can now quote the fucking films, and my kids are only 9 and 5. So you can put together how many times I've seen it if they can quote the films themselves. What took away from this experience for me was it didn't have the horror that the film had. It felt a little bit removed from the films. I know it was kind of ahead of its time in the way of the dream sequences it had in the game, where if you didn't have enough coffee and you fell asleep, the world would change into a horrorscape, and you would get abilities like being able to throw ninja stars, you know, being able to do some jump kicks and things of that nature. But outside of that, and outside of Freddy popping up a couple of times, it didn't feel like a Nightmare on Elm Street experience. I don't know if I'm in the only person in that boat, because this game is highly regarded by many, but I just feel it didn't deliver that Freddy Krueger experience I was hoping it was going to. I loved it because it was the first actual like old school game we played, the first Super Nintendo game we uploaded. Graphically, you know, the sound design, everything just screamed retro. It's just didn't leave me screaming in good ways, unfortunately, as much as that fucking pains me to put it so low. Kingdom Hearts 2, the first retro game we played. Hard to not have this up in S tier, right? And we put that high up on the list as well. Kingdom Hearts is one of my favourite franchises of all time. I've got all the games. I collect action figures. I have loved Kingdom Hearts ever since playing the first game. And it was one of those games where, as a kid, some stores here in Australia would have like gaming setups with like a TV and a console in a lockbox that you could go play a little bit of. And I remember one day going into this store and being able to play Kingdom Hearts 1 for the first time. And I'm a huge Final Fantasy fan as well, especially when it comes to Final Fantasy X. It's my favourite Final Fantasy game of all time. So imagine my surprise when I play this game, playing as Sora, running around on Destiny Island, and I'm finding Waka, I'm finding Titus, I'm finding these Final Fantasy X characters within this universe. I absolutely loved it. And then obviously just throw in the Disney on top. Absolutely brilliant. And Kingdom Hearts 2 did enough. Again, it was one of those instances where the sequel surpasses the original. Story-wise, combat-wise, it was a huge step up. Absolutely love Kingdom Hearts 2. In my opinion, best game in the franchise. Feel free to disagree. Lost Records, Bloom and Rage. This game, for me, straight into the #1 slot. Because I think sitting back here and looking at it, as far as 2025 releases go, this was my game of the year. And it's a game that I feel didn't get enough recognition when it comes to nominations. Didn't get the game award that it was nominated for, which I think it was deserving of. It was emotionally striking. It had me in absolute tears. I loved the connection with the characters. The storytelling and the narrative was absolutely brilliant. Visually, it was stunning. And again, it was one of those games that had branching paths, choose your own adventure style things, and it did it so incredibly well. I am just hoping that this is just the beginning for this world. While we've closed the book on these 4 girls, is there possibility for this universe to be expanded upon with different people being introduced into the mix? They did tease something recently that I thought might have been DLC or another game. It was the reveal that they're dropping merch, which I think is great because I would jump on that train so fucking quickly. But I am waiting with bated breath for something new to come out within the Lost Records universe. I've re-downloaded this game recently as well because I am hell-bent to make sure this game is one of the first games I platinum in 2026. Bad Cheese was phenomenal. I'm actually going to put it at the top of the A list. It was a visually, aesthetically stunning game. It was a game that was Steamboat Willied the shit out of. Old school animation, Mickey Mouse and friends, but it was amplified horror to the absolute max. And it was body horror in the way of seeing some of the designs. It was creepy as fuck. The story, telling the tale of a kid who was essentially beaten and abused by his drunken father, was told so exceptionally well. I just loved everything about this game. I don't think it's an S tier game for me because I feel it just felt like there was something holding it back from reaching its full potential. But to slot it in the #1 slot in the A list, very happy to do so. The Hell Is Us demo. I played it. I absolutely loved it. I'm actually going to put it in A tier. We are probably going to put it... Yeah, I'll put it after... Ooh, I'll put it after Ayla. Because I did enjoy it. I love the idea of not having a mini-map and having to explore yourself and uncover things on your own. I never got around to playing full release. I did say after playing the demo I was going to play full release, so I haven't done that yet. Might possibly be one that I bring onto the roster throughout 2026. Could be one that I just download and play in my own time. But I loved the aesthetic of this game. The combat felt solid. The exploration possibilities was what really won me over. Very keen to return to this. Just obviously with all the games I played, just never had the time to really get back into it. But that isn't because it didn't want me coming back, because it definitely did. I just didn't have the time. Dispatch. I'm S-tiering this bitch. I'm S-tiering it. It is going... Yeah, it's got to be. It's got to be in the #2 slot for me. A lot of people saying that this game is getting glazed. I mean, the Dispatch fans are coming out in droves saying it should have won more awards. I personally feel it should have. Again, from devs that worked at Telltale, so it's going to be a choose-your-own-adventure branching pathway style game. It delivered a lot. The characterization and the storytelling in this game, I think, was elite. The voice acting was absolutely brilliant. The gameplay mechanics, I can dig it. And again, possibility for branching out and expanding this franchise is huge. They spent a lot of years making this game, but they're already talking a #2 just because of how well this game went, and the reception it's had is demanding a sequel. And the ending of this game, regardless of what route you go down, sets that sequel up. There are so many opportunities to follow up storylines from this game, add new characters into it, new perspectives. Very keen to see where this game goes. I'm very happy I picked this up. And alongside Lost Records, Bloom and Rage, Dispatch is going to be the other game that I kind of want to platinum early. There's a couple of trophies in this game that might be a little bit hard to obtain, so it's going to take me a little while. But these two, I think, were my favorite two games alongside Digimon Story Time Stranger and Expedition 33. So far, I think that top echelon of S tier, I'm building perfectly. Some might not agree, but to my own personal taste and how I land, this list is looking good. Rule of Rose. Wanted to play this for a very long time. Never got to because it was banned in Australia, because it was unrated. And it is very highly sought after in the collector space. You're looking at spending anywhere from $400 to $1,000 to get this into your collection. Where does it sit with me? I'm putting it at the top of B tier. It is not the A tier game I thought it was going to be. It's held back just a little bit from being an A tier game. I think, obviously, during that time period, PlayStation 2, survival horror, back on the PS2, PS1, there was a lot of running back and forth, a lot of monotonous kind of behind-the-scenes kind of stuff you had to do to progress the story. I just feel that happened more often than not with this game. Mechanically, though, I loved that you had Brown, the dog, who would help you go the direction you need to go and steer you the right way. Obviously, survival horror, you're going to have situations where inventory management is key, but I feel there wasn't enough. And again, this just could be a player problem, it could be a gamer problem, a skill problem, but there wasn't enough healing items to sustainably carry you through, and I found myself in situations where I was getting killed more often than not in situations where I shouldn't have been killed, and it kind of killed the experience for me a little bit. But still, probably as far as like B tier, just under A tier games go, this was probably the best one I played all year. I think where all my B tier games are going to slot in today, I don't think anything will surpass Rule of Rose. That's just my personal opinion. Resident Evil 0. Gonna put it at the top of C tier, because while it was the first time I ever played it from start to finish, which again might shock some people, this year I played 2 Resident Evil games that I've never finished before, and I claim to be this self-proclaimed Resident Evil fanboy, and I know people are gonna fucking drag me for that, but Resident Evil 0 was one that I thought I would better experience as a multiplayer, and I think I probably would have if I played it as a multiplayer. There were some situations where my AI fucking partner would die and fucking shit me off. Other situations where, again, running back and forth was a little bit too much for me. It didn't really build much. Like the zombie monkeys didn't feel as impactful as they should have. Some of the other enemy types were a little bit diluted, I feel. It just didn't feel like that ever, like, foreboding fucking Resident Evil presence that the original trilogy had. And given that this is supposed to be a prequel leading up to that, you'd think this would set the tone. And I just don't think it hit that marker for me anyway. As far as the Resident Evil games go, this is probably one of my least favorite in the franchise. That's not knocking Rebecca Chambers, because I love Rebecca Chambers. I just feel they could have done more with Billy's story as well. Rebecca was too openly forgiving of Billy, considering he was earmarked as this fucking big killer. So there are some holes in the story as well. I just think a little bit too much was holding this game back. Split Fiction, I am putting in the S tier. I'm going to put it slap bang in 5th place. As far as multiplayer goes, this game is innovative as fuck. It was one of the first games that I had collaborated with my good friend of mine, Six, who will appear in another video game that we're going to rank in this list. Being able to bounce off of someone in this game was brilliant. And given the fact that you can't play Split Fiction on your own, you have to play it with a friend or team up with a random, I think is a great thing, because it's built upon a story of 2 people coming together and their lives intertwining and mixing. The levels were absolutely brilliant. Some of the best level designs I have seen. The interaction between worlds, especially come the end of the game when things start to blend. This was beautiful. Story was great. Graphics was brilliant. Sound design was absolutely fantastic. There is nothing that falters this game. I actually feel it had a strong case to push for Game of the Year. I actually feel Split Fiction should have won more awards than it did. Do they have possibility of returning to this world and giving us something else? I don't know. But as far as multiplayer games go, I think, looking through this list real quick here to see what games I have left, yeah, this was the best multiplayer experience I played for 2025. Donkey Kong Bonanza. Yeah, you know what? This is going S tier as well for me. This game was absolutely brilliant. It might shock some people to see it actually fall so far down my list, but I had absolute fun with this. And for a game that is touted as a family game, as a kids-driven game, I believe it won Family Game of the Year. Well deserving. This game took me back to being a kid again. Playing as Donkey Kong, even though it's the revamped look of Donkey Kong, going through all those different levels, collecting those bananas, you know, the sound design, the visuals. Let's not even talk about the story. You can disregard the story. The story was great enough, but just transitioning between each level, unlocking those new power-ups and turning into different creatures and being able to manipulate the world, being able to smash through everything, the destruction, the customization it offered. This game, as far as kids games, as far as Nintendo goes, could probably be Nintendo's best for the year. I absolutely loved it. I actually loved it more than I thought I would. It was absolutely brilliant. Silent Hill 2 didn't release in 2025, but we finished it in January of 2025. This, yeah, look, collectively as a whole, as a video game, it's definitely got to take the #1 slot. Just overall. Wasn't the best 2025 release I played, but as far as all the games that did appear on my channel last year, Silent Hill 2 was the best game I played, just collectively. It just really leans into what Resident Evil have done in the remake space and has just provided so much hope for the Silent Hill OG remake that's getting made by the same team that made this. Again, atmosphere, tension, sound design, everything you want in the perfect horror game. This could very well be the perfect horror game. I rank it highly amongst the Resident Evil remakes as well. It could be one of my favorite horror games of all time, period. And it is knocking on the door of potentially top 10 game of all time for myself. It was huge. Again, just to clarify, Lost Records Bloom and Rage is probably my favorite 2025 release, but as far as games that I played and appeared on the channel, Silent Hill 2 is #1. SmackDown vs. Raw 2009. I mean, what more can we say about these games, right? The SmackDown vs. Raw games are absolutely A tier. I think it is something that 2K has to look at doing, bringing back that SmackDown vs. Raw angle. What I probably didn't like about these particular games, and probably so much so that I could prop it even down to a B tier, and I will put them just behind Rule of Rose. And while I'm at it, I will put, where are you, 2011 in there as well, but I actually probably ranked 2011 a little bit higher. The taking away of the personalized story mode and giving you the road to WrestleManias, I know the angle they were shooting for. I just liked being able to create your own character and go through those story modes on your own. But as far as wrestling games go, I definitely feel these games are higher regarded than some of the early, 2K12 and all that kind of stuff that they started doing 2K-wise. I just feel that it was held back just a little bit. Just a little bit. It wasn't as personable as some of those earlier SmackDown vs. Raws were. I remember the first SmackDown vs. Raw, you jump into the story mode and you actively play as the GM, drafting that roster. You play as your designated superstar. You can make decisions along the way. But this time around, that was kind of removed, and you had predetermined stories to play through, which probably just drops it down from being an A to a B for me, because I like that more personable kind of experience with wrestling games, which is why I'm glad WWE 2K25, the My Rise mode in that had so much possibility, and, you know, the addition of my GM to being globally, like being able to play multiplayer wise, just took it to a new level, which probably leads me to the fact that I will do that game next, and I am going to put 2K25 in my first A slot, because again, multiplayer wise, was a game that I collabed with Rockstar Pool 69 through my GM mode. Funny enough, later today, we drop the first of our 4-season, 65-episode long My GM mode. It is huge, and we've gone all out for this series, so I hope you guys enjoy it. A little bit of a teaser for you if you're watching this video, but I played My Rise. I played My GM. I've done My Faction, and I'm still to this day returning to My Faction and My GM in my own time. It's the first time with a 2K game that I find myself constantly going back to play more, and when 2K26 comes out, you best believe the Rockstar and myself will be returning once more. Little Nightmares 3. I'm going to put it in the top of C tier. Story was great. Gameplay-wise, I feel it would have been better if I played with a friend. The AI was a little bit stupid, I feel, and I think that hampers it for me. That's not a skill issue. That's the AI not being good enough. I love the story. The story was brilliant. Being able to choose who you play as at the start, a little bit of customizational options if you bought the digital deluxe version. But I think mechanically, gameplay-wise, it didn't differentiate enough from Little Nightmares 2, which I absolutely loved. And again, if you play with a friend, I think that kind of pushing the envelope of having to rely on teamwork would have been a lot better. But my teammate, more often than not in that fucking series, was leaving me high and dry or doing absolutely fucking nothing, and I was dying more often than not. So, yeah. Again, I don't think that's a skill issue. I just think that's the AI when playing single player just being a little bit dumbed down a little bit, which just killed the experience for me. Resident Evil 6. We wrapped up last night. Actually, the final episode would have dropped. I am surprisingly, and this might shock a lot of people, I am going to put Resident Evil 6 slap bang in the middle of A tier. I collaborated with the Jost on this one, who has been synonymous with some of my Resident Evil gameplays and some of my earlier uploads that I've done on the channel, one of my closest friends. And this was a game that I played initially on day one release and stopped playing because at that time just didn't feel like a Resident Evil game. Felt a little bit too removed and I didn't like it, and I jumped on board the hype train and I didn't touch it. All these years later, with Resident Evil Requiem kind of being ready to be announced at the time, I thought, let's start playing through the Resident Evil games that I haven't played yet and get them all ticked off, so when Resident Evil 9 rolls around, we're good to go. Let's give this a chance, let's dive in multiplayer, let's see how it goes. I actually hold this in higher regard than Resident Evil 0 and Resident Evil 5. And Resident Evil 5 I have played numerous times. The Jost and I played that together, and him and I both agreed at the end of Resident Evil 6 that we loved our time with that game more than Resident Evil 5. I don't know whether it was mixing up of the characters and the storylines kind of interplaying. Yes, it is still action heavy, but it returned some horror to the franchise, which is what Resident Evil 5 was lacking. And I think that combination was dealt better than what Resident Evil 5 did. And I think I was secretly sleeping on Resident Evil 6 for too long. And to all the Resident Evil fans out there, I apologize. And I know there are some that are going to say I'm fucking crazy for putting it so high because it's a terrible game. Give it another chance. I'm telling you right now, I was pleasantly surprised with what this game delivered. The Outlast Trials. I'm S-tiering this game. I'm S-tiering this and then some. If Split Fiction was my favorite multiplayer for the year, Outlast Trials is my second favorite. It was over 12 months between playing this again and the last upload we did, but the Rockstar and I returned to an updated game with new killers, with new maps, and we just picked up where we left off. Banter through the roof, scares absolutely terrifying, plenty of pants were shitted in, and there's still more updates to come. They're promising more killers, more maps, and they've just added things like, you know, being able to jump into other people's experiences and fucking around with them and things of that nature. So much possibility. This has really opened my eyes to the fact that I haven't played any of the single player Outlast experiences yet, and I think I have to do so. If you haven't jumped on Outlast Trials yet, it was added to the PlayStation Plus lineup, so get on in and do it for free. I mean, do it at the cost of a subscription, but I mean, this should see the player base rise, and it really deserves that rise because the work that the devs are putting into this game is absolutely sensational. Mickey's Wild Adventure. Happy to slap this down high in the B tier. It was giving me old school nostalgic vibes. One of those things where I spoke about it at the time. There was a restaurant we would always go to when I was a kid that would have a play center for the kids, like a little play area with a slide and a little playground and everything else. But there was a wall of television screens inbuilt into it with little controllers sticking out. And there were games like old school Aladdin, The Lion King, Mickey's Wild Adventure, all sticking out, and I would just spend my time after eating my meal, or before the meal even came out, go in there, play some games, go have my meal, come back and go play some games again, and I flogged the fuck out of this game. This just took me back again to those childhood nostalgic memories, and I absolutely loved bringing it to the Retro Rewind roster. I called it a roster. That is what it's all about. I absolutely loved it. It's just... It's about kicking up those experiences again and feeling childhood bewilderment, and that delivered it, you know, plenty. Speaking of, Rugrats Search for Reptar. Absolutely loved this game as a kid, and I'm A-tiering this game. I don't care what anybody says. Some people might say it doesn't hold up. How far up am I going to put it, though? Here's the question. You know what? I'll put it just behind Ayla, and I will put it ahead of Hell Is Us. Might feel a little bit dated to some, especially with clunky mechanics and clunky controls, but I mean, it was clunky controls back on the PS1, so I can't complain about that now. I loved Rugrats as a kid. The television series popped off. The films, absolutely loved them. All grown up, maybe not my flavor, maybe not my cup of tea, but loved this game, loved what it presented, and, you know, as an adult, we might have been able to fly through it, but as a kid, absolutely loved it. And I still had, again, that childhood bewilderment returning to this game and just remembering the levels and the memories that it brought back. Not only did I play this, my dad played this when I was a kid. So, you know, being able to remember those kind of memories of watching my dad play games just adds to that nostalgia factor as well. So I'm definitely happy to throw Rugrats Search for Reptar up in the A tier. Silent Hill F, this is S tier for me. How high does it go? Is the question. I'm going to put it behind Split Fiction, but ahead of Donkey Kong Bonanza. I think that's a good slot. Loved what it did in the way of taking it away from Silent Hill as a town and creating it as a phenomenon. The lore, the Japanese aesthetic, taking, you know, Hinako through all that brutal kind of stuff that she went through in the other world, or what was essentially was the other world, and having an actual story that was happening in real time being shown as something completely demonic was very poetic. And when you go back and play the game for a second, third, fourth time, different scenes start to appear and play out differently, so you see the story from a different angle, and I absolutely love that fact. This was one of my favorite Silent Hill experiences, and I'm actually very keen to see where the franchise goes moving forward now that we know it exists outside of Silent Hill as a town. It can happen anywhere around the world in any different time period. So consider the door kicked absolutely the fuck down and open to possibility. Still Wakes the Deep, Siren's Rest. This is going in C tier for me. I loved Still Wakes the Deep. To me, Still Wakes the Deep is an S tier game. This was DLC, and I failed to hit the mark. And to me, there was only that one kind of period where it was scary at the end. There was kind of like a creature under the water that we had to kind of manipulate our way around. But only having that one creature when the first base game had so much tension and fear pumped into it. The main part, or the main point of Siren's Rest was the underwater exploration and going deep underwater and uncovering things and, you know, kind of maybe bulking the story up a little bit with finding some documents and things of that nature. I just think when you put the two together, they feel a little bit disconnected. They don't feel cohesive. One is absolutely brilliant with atmosphere and with, you know, the jump scares and general tension. And Siren's Rest, I feel, just falls short of the mark from what the base game delivered. I don't know. Might be just me, but that's where it lands. Jurassic World Evolution. Let's throw this bad boy in S tier, shall we? It goes behind Donkey Kong Bonanza. The addition of juvenile dinosaurs cannot be understated in this game. It takes this game from an A grade game to an S tier game. Just having those baby dinosaurs in there is fucking brilliant. As far as park building goes, they added a lot of more customizational options to really hone in. I've got some ideas that I hope come to light with this game, because if they add some things that I've got in my internal wish list, this game could be absolutely elite, could be god tier. But I absolutely loved my time with the story mode. Thinking about returning to sandbox mode. I don't know whether we live stream it, whether I do some sandbox mode videos, but it's one of those games that I think I'm going to come back to in my own time at least and just cozy up and have good fun with, just building and just having a good time. But yeah, baby dinosaurs, sign me the fuck up. Five Nights at Freddy's Secret of the Mimic, I'm S tiering as well. Let's throw it. Ooh, where do we throw it? I did love it more than I did Donkey Kong. I did enjoy it more than I did Silent Hill. So we're going to throw it right there. Serves as a prequel. Obviously, the guy that creates all the animatronics in this game is the one that was tasked with the original Bonnie and Freddy designs. And there's mention of that throughout. I like the animatronics in this game. It was great to see some scares from characters that I have never seen before, didn't know of before, and dive into some lore that kind of backs up, you know, what is going to be Five Nights at Freddy's. You know, the endoskeleton, seeing Party Time Chica's OG design, things like that was so incredibly well done. Absolutely love Five Nights at Freddy's. I know I came to the gaming franchise late, because the first Five Nights at Freddy's game I ever played was Security Breach, so I was definitely late, and there's still plenty of Five Nights I have to go back and play. But I'm very keen to see where this franchise goes moving forward, especially now that it's become a open world kind of exploration style instead of sitting behind a desk and just pointing and clicking. Definitely feel that was the direction the franchise needed to go, and I'm glad it has. But yeah, absolutely loved that game. Pokemon Radical Red. Fuck, I love playing this. I'm gonna go top of the A tier. I thought it was great. The difficulty in that game was brilliant. The level of Pokemon we were able to catch was fantastic. Thank fuck I didn't Nuzlocke it, because we would have bombed out so many fucking times through that playthrough. And it's brought back to me a reinvigoration to want to play Pokemon games again. And I'm definitely going to make sure throughout 2026 we get back on board the Pokemon train. Underworld. The second game I collaborated with Six with. Actually, I think we collaborated on Underworld ahead of Split Fiction. I'm going to put this at the top of B tier. Holds a lot of promise. I feel there is more that could go about it. I feel there could be more scares thrown in the mix. I feel there could be a little bit of a harder difficulty curve, just to add to the tension. But Six and I absolutely loved our time with this game, albeit it was only a few sessions that we sat down and played. We absolutely loved it. Until Dawn Remake. Yeah, look, this is going top of A tier. Or no, it's got to be S tier for me, because I love the original. But it doesn't go high up in S tier. I think what adds it to S tier was the additional ending they put in, plus the bonus end credit sequence that showed that there could potentially be a sequel in the works. And I think that's what this game served as. It served as a remake in the sense of bringing it back into the mix again, kind of fitting it a little bit more into the Dark Pictures Anthology universe, but then adding that bonus at the end to have that different ending, but also set up a continuation in this universe really has me excited. The reason it's not higher up in this list is because it didn't offer anything additional outside of that, but Until Dawn is one of my favorite games of all time, so I'd be doing myself a disservice if I didn't have it in the S tier. Resident Evil Biohazard 1.5, Resident Evil 1.5. This is going in the first slot on the A list. This was the game that was originally supposed to be Resident Evil 2. While I love Resident Evil 2 as much as I do, this game had so much going for it that I'm disappointed didn't make the final cut. And I'm glad we finally took the time after all these years to sit back and dive in and finally see what all the hype was about. You know, the deleted character in Eliza, the mutated gorillas, the William Birkin's original design and how that was handled, how Kendo's original character wasn't Kendo, he was somebody else that would actually physically help you through the game. You know, Sherry being more active in the way of following you around a bit more. There was so much going for it. And again, Resident Evil 2 is one of my favorite games of all time, both the OG and the remake. But this here, there's so much going for it that if you haven't played it, if you haven't seen any gameplay, go and do yourselves a favor. You won't be disappointed. Warhammer 40k, Space Marine 2. My first Warhammer experience. Yeah, this was incredible. I loved this. Do I S tier it? Or was it top of the A tier? Was it ahead? Yeah, I think it was A tier. Was it A tier? Was it S tier? Am I comfortable slotting it ahead of some other games I played in the S tier? Probably. Was it a top 10? I don't think so. Was it just outside of top 10? Yeah, I think it was. We're slotting it ahead of Until Dawn. My first Warhammer experience. I dived in with zero expectation or knowledge of what to expect and was absolutely blown away. The gameplay, some people might discredit because it's just waves of enemies coming at you, but I love that type of thing, that survival kind of aspect. I love the story that this told. The level of customization was great. But ultimately, I think why I'm putting this S tier is it has me wanting to return to other Warhammer games. Other games within this franchise that could add to the lore, help me understand things better. Games that want me to actively deep dive into the franchise, I highly regard. And that's why we're going to slap it here. And the final game that we played is going to be my final S tier slot, Into the Dead Our Darkest Days. I absolutely loved this fucking game. It will go ahead of Warhammer. I just need to determine whether this was a top 10 game or not. I think it just misses out. I think it just misses out. I absolutely loved it. I loved the aesthetic. I loved the side-scrolling. I loved the possibility and different storytelling options it had. It's been updated to the hill since I played it last, so I'm keen to dive back in and check out what's been added. There's new survivors, there's new mechanics, there's new modes. This is one of the definitive zombie survival experiences, and if you haven't played it yet, I do urge you to go and check it out. Before we round up this list, I just want to make sure everything sits right, especially with my top 10. I am going to move Digimon ahead of Expedition 33, only because I haven't played enough of Expedition 33 to definitively say it's better yet. It probably will be, but I'm happy with that. So that's how we're ranking all my games for 2025 that I've played. My top 10 would then sit as Silent Hill 2 Remake in number 1, Lost Records Bloom and Rage in number 2, Dispatch number 3, Digimon Story Time Stranger number 4, Claire Obscure Expedition 33 in 5, Split Fiction in 6, Five Nights at Freddy's Secret of the Mimic in 7, Silent Hill F in 8, Donkey Kong Bonanza in 9, and Jurassic World Evolution 3 in 10, with Outlast Trials, Into the Dead, Our Darkest Days, and Warhammer 40k Space Marine 22 knocking on the door of that 10, because any three of those games could have overtaken Jurassic World Evolution 3. Do hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Something a little bit different. It's opened me up to the possibility of doing more tier list rankings, whether we do things like ranking different genres of games, whether we rank characters, whether we rank, you know, anything that you would like to see ranked. You can let me know in the comment section down below. But those are all the games I played in 2025. We played over 50 of them. So this year, it's set a bar for this year, I can tell you that much. We're going to be kicking things off, as I said, later today with the return of WWE 2K25's MyGM mode, which is going to be a long-form series, which will take the secondary slot from Monday to Friday. Tomorrow, we are going to do a once-off upload of a project I'm very keen to bring to the channel. I'm very thankful to have an opportunity to do so. And then next week, we officially start Claire Obscure Expedition 33, and that should potentially carry us to the release of Resident Evil Requiem. So hopefully my timing is right, but we're kicking things off in a big way. We're starting with a long-form WWE series, which the first series we did went over great with you guys, and this one is even bigger and better, so I'm hoping you enjoy it just as much. And the first Let's Play that we sink into as a new game is the Game of the Year from 2025, so what better way to kick things off, right? Do hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, do me a favor and hit that like button down below. If you've missed anything on this list in the past, feel free to go to my channel and check them out. Free at your disposal, every playlist curated just for your convenience. You are welcome, and hit that notification bell so whenever I upload, you get that ring-a-ding-ding that tells you something new has gone down. But that's it from me, guys. I'm out of here, and as always, I will catch you guys next time. Hit subscribe, you bastard.